Exodus 21:20.
Or the biblical verse canary.
If a man takes a stick.
If a man takes a stick
and beats his slave.
And beat his slave.
Whether male or female.
Whether male or female.
And the slave dies on the spot.
And the slave dies on the spot.
The man is to be punished.
The man is to be punished.
But if the slave does not die for a day or two.
If the slave does not die for a day or two.
The master is not to be punished.
The master is not to be punished.
The loss of his property.
The loss of his property.
Is punishment enough.
Is punishment enough. And you are telling me they should teach our kids this nonsense.
Leviticus 25 verse number 39.
Verse 39.
If a fellow Israelite
living near you
becomes so poor that
he
sells himself to you as a slave.
He sells himself to you as a slave.
You shall not make him to do the work of a slave.
Don't allow your fellow Israelite to do the work of a slave.
He shall stay with you as a hired man.
He shall stay with you as a hired man
and serve you.
Until
the next year of restoration.
Until the year of restoration.
At that time, he and his children shall leave you. And return to his family. And to the property of his ancestors. The people of Israel.
The people of Israel
are the Lord's slaves.
And
he brought them out of Egypt. They must not be sold into slavery.
Israel need ye turn as a slave. Why na ye turn no kind?
Do not treat them harshly.
Do not treat Israelites harshly.
But obey your God.
Verse 44.
If you need slaves, you may buy them.
From
the nations around you.
Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Cameroon, Sudan. It's a verse you want buy a slave. No,
Alright, you might be wondering why this video is titled this way, that Jesus Christ endorses slavery and then tribalism. Most Christians will argue that this verse is from the Old Testament. It couldn't have been from Jesus. If it's from Jesus, then it should come from the New Testament. Now, you put yourself in a very big trouble. You have to choose between the two things I'm going to mention. You either believe that Jesus is God or Jesus is not God. You cannot have both and still deny that it is an instruction from Jesus. Because this instruction is from God. Remember, this is an instruction from God in the Old Testament. Now you say Jesus is God. If Jesus Christ is God, then he must be the very same God in the Old Testament. Unless you are saying that he became God when Mary gave birth to him, but he wasn't God, the same God in the Old Testament. Then what kind of God is he? So if you believe that Jesus Christ is God, then definitely these instructions of enslaving Africans, enslaving non-Jews must come from him. You see, I'm right. So before you can say that these are not instructions from Jesus, then you have to come out and accept that Jesus Christ is not God. The Bible is saying that the Israelites are superhumans such that they cannot be enslaved. But if the Jews want slaves, they should look into people who are not Israelites and use them as slaves. This doesn't make sense. So as I said, this is an instruction from Jesus. This is an instruction from God. If you say Jesus is God, then don't come and argue with me that no, this is not from Jesus. This is an Old Testament. It is an Old Testament from Moses and all of that time. No, this is not about that. If you believe Jesus is God, then he is the same God in the Old Testament who gave those instructions. Who gave those instructions for people to be enslaved. And it is because of these verses that the Christians, the West, came and enslaved Africans, thinking that they have that right.